Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Red, White, and Ruthless presented by Nickel City Mafia, where our family business is football. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills. You know me. My name is Brett McDurphy. I'm with the Go Bills podcast, and we are going to talk about the biggest matchup of the week, the biggest matchup of probably the year for the Buffalo Bills. It's rematch time. This time, it's a matchup between the Buffalo Bills traveling to Texas, the Lone Star State, to take on Stephon Diggs, our new arch rival in the Houston Texans. Man, I cannot wait for this one. The best thing about it is we are out of primetime games right now, and we are back into that 1 o'clock start time. We already have the 9:30 game in London. Now we have football. Throughout the whole entire day, we can tell our wives that we are not going to do anything tomorrow, but just watch football. And I can't wait to be in that 1 o'clock spot. It's better than that 8:30 waiting all day for the night time and to talk about football, but less than 24 hours. And as I call it, the final 24 before the game ends. Sean, man, how are you doing, buddy? First of all.
I'm doing good. Can't complain. Looking forward to this matchup because it's an opportunity against a good team to make up for what we did last week and to kind of get back into the graces of the vultures and the media. And
yeah, you're exactly right.
Other fan bases anyway.
You're exactly right. This is the time to get back at the franchise that we haven't beaten since 2006, which is crazy to think about. And you've heard throughout the week at Houston, we haven't won. Yes. You're right.
I was at the last time we played them. It was 2 years ago. We beat them 40-0. I was at that game and it rained the whole day. It kind of sucked, but it was started off with a Josh Allen pick on the first drive, and I was like,
"That's right,
really? Against the crappy Texans?" And then we blew them out. So, but yeah, we haven't beaten them, so like you said, since 2006 in Houston. So I'll just have those haunting memories of that playoff game.
That's right. And I mean, looking back at that, I mean, all the times that we played them, we've had opportunities to beat them in Houston multiple times and didn't capitalize on it. But, you know, I think this time's the charm, and it's going to be a really good matchup. Like I said, a lot of injuries that we need to talk about, though, Sean. I mean, that's the first thing I want to talk about from the Bills side of things. Sure. Yes, they are going to get back a couple of key pieces. Let's talk about the good first. Let's talk about who they're getting back. Number one, Terrell Bernard, coming back from a pectoral injury. Hasn't played since week 2. Coming back after a few weeks. How great is it to get him back on the field?
Yeah, it'll definitely be good. We had people step in, and it seemed okay. And, you know, a lot of people are putting a lot of blame on just one guy or two guys from the defense last week. But collectively, it was just a bad effort. I mean, from what I saw, you know, D tackles do their job, defensive ends can't contain, linebackers don't fill properly, and then it's just a mess. But they did good in service while they were injured. But when you get a guy like Terrell Bernard back, who's a vocal leader, who's just also leads through his play, he's not the most experienced guy, but he's more experienced than what we had as far as quality out there. And, you know, he's a playmaker. He's a splash playmaker. So it's always good to have a guy like him.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that. And then add into the mix now, Taron Johnson with his forearm injury could be back as well. Now, this is still early on. We don't know for certain, but less than 24 hours before the game, they are questionable for this game, but they are trending in the right direction. Each of them have practiced throughout the week, limited basis, but trending in the right direction towards playing this week, and I expect them to be out there on the field. So getting Taron Johnson back, another key piece for the Buffalo Bills after a little bit of a regression over the first couple of weeks from what we saw from Cam Lewis and Jamarcus Ingram.
Yeah, definitely be good. I'm pretty sure he's going to play too. I think if they weren't sure that they could, they would have said they were both out like they did, you know, weeks prior. So I'm feeling confident that they're both going to play. And yeah, I mean, Ingram and Lewis, they had a couple good weeks, and then, you know, it was just an off week last week for everyone. So definitely be good to have key starters back at those positions. And then maybe you're feeling a lot better if you got, TJ on Diggs and Douglas on Tank Dell. That's kind of like a size mismatch. It's not by much, but Dell's kind of short. And then if you got Nico on Benford, if Benford's won me over pretty good this year, considering what I was thinking of him going into the year. So this is where you can seal the deal. If you can lock up a guy like Nico Collins, then then we can start really talking about a legit cornerback one. But I think as far as defensive backs go, if TJ's back, you feel good whoever's lining up in the slot, whether it's Tank Dell or Stephon Diggs. And all these guys played against Stephon Diggs, and Diggs played against them. So they both are going to look for that competitive advantage of, I remember getting him at practice this way. That's why I was telling Mike, I said the group chat, I said, honestly, I would want, if Johnson can't play, I want Elam to play slot because he used to piss Diggs off like this. And if you could piss him off, maybe it'll because some people are different. Like, I'm not a guy, like some people are like, if I'm pissed off or sad, I go to the gym and have a great workout. But if I am pissed off or sad, I can't work out at all. I just don't want to be anywhere.
Right.
So maybe Diggs is that type of guy. If you get him pissed off during the game, he'll kind of get emotional, as we've seen him get emotional, and maybe not check out, but overdo it and try to do too much and then make mistakes. But I'm just pretty happy that Johnson will be back. It just makes you feel more confident.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Now, on the other hand, I want to talk about the elevations that the Bills made. They made 2 elevations from the practice squad to the active roster. Now, Sean, I didn't know this. This is something I learned about after getting some research from these 2 players that were elevated. I didn't know that the practice squad players do not travel to road games every week. So the only times that they travel to road games are if they are going to London. So these players stay in Buffalo and they practice during the week, stay in Buffalo when the team travels, and then come back to the facility once they return to Buffalo. It's kind of crazy. So the 2 players that were elevated from the practice squad, Branson Deem and as well as Tyrell Shavers, both of them coming in to take the places of a few players that are hurt this week. It's going to make a big difference for the Bills, especially after having 4 starters that are going to be out this week. So the first one I want to mention is Dean. He is a rookie who played 4 seasons at Purdue, and in his final season at Miami, Florida, Dean, 6'1", 298 pounds, was signed by the Buffalo Bills as an undrafted free agent in 2024, and this is his first elevation of the season. He's going to take the place of Ed Oliver, who is injured this week, won't be playing with a hamstring injury, and then Tyrell Shavers, who is in his 2nd season on the Buffalo Bills practice squad. He ended his college career at San Diego State after stints at Alabama and Mississippi State. Shavers, 6'4", 211 pounds. This is actually his first elevation as well. Both of them will play this week at NRG Stadium in Houston with the Buffalo Bills. So let's talk about the good news and the bad news. Let's talk about the elevations, first of all, of Dean and Shavers, and then let's talk about the players that are going to be out. So I'll save that for right after we talk about the good. So let's talk about Dean and Shavers. And Sean.
Yeah, well, it sucks losing Ed Oliver, but it seemed like they're pretty. I mean, they brought in that guy from the Falcons practice squad, and they must have felt that Dean was in a better place. I don't know much about him, but my friends over at the Fins tailgate, they're big Miami Hurricane fans, so most of them, and they always tell you got to have more Canes on your teams if you want to be a good football team. So if Dean was from Miami his last year, maybe that'll that adage will be true for the Buffalo Bills. But I know some people think 6'1", 300 pounds is undersized, but he's a 3 technique, which people put. Sometimes we often put Greg Rousseau at a 3 tech sometimes, and he's 260 pounds. So being 300 pounds, maybe 6'1" is undersized, but being 300 pounds is not undersized at all. And it's actually better to be kind of short because you get better pad leverage and you can get underneath people better. So I don't think that's undersized at all. If you ever seen someone that's 300 pounds, you wouldn't feel that way. I just feel it goes back to my point. We don't have like a true big body nose tackle or one technique or zero tech, whatever. So everybody looks undersized. But at the end of the day, I mean, Greg Rousseau, 6'7", 260. Epinesa, 6'6". I still wish he was 270, like when we drafted him. But I mean, I'm fine with his size. I think he'll be all right. And then you still got Carter as well. He's going to be playing more snaps, and yeah, you're going to have to lean on the young guys, and they'll probably put Smoot at defensive tackle too if they need to get someone a rest.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's an undrafted free agent, and it's his first opportunity. So I mean, I wouldn't expect the world out of him. I don't even know what his specialty is. I don't know if he's a run stopping defensive tackle or a pass rushing or what. Because honestly, I wasn't expecting him to ever play. But I'll do more research on him. But it's definitely exciting, giving guys other opportunities that maybe never thought they'd have one. I know the guy from the Falcons said the same thing. I mean, I've been playing at Georgia, so I've just been waiting for my opportunity. So I mean, we'll see. These guys get maybe once. This might be their only chance. You got to look, and that's how they should be looking at it. Especially Shavers. I mean, he's been on the team for a couple of years now. Never sniffed the field, so he could go out there and get 6-7 catches, and then they might not want to take him off. So we'll see. But it's exciting for him.
Yeah, it's exciting for both of them. And you talked about Dean. I'm going to talk about Shavers a little bit. You know, coming out of San Diego State, he had a terrific preseason for the Buffalo Bills. It seemed like he was trending towards making the 53-man roster. The Bills decided that they weren't going to have him be on the 53-man roster. He luckily wasn't scooped up from another team when the roster cuts happened. The Bills were able to get him back on the practice squad, and now you're seeing him elevated. Maybe this is the kick in the right direction that he needs to make a splash and get an opportunity to make the roster of the Bills and get back up to the 53-man roster. It's going to be tough, but the Bills do have some injuries that we have to report on. Number one, we did talk about the Ed Oliver news. He is going to be out this week with a hamstring injury, but the Bills do have some issues at the wide receiver position. Number one wide receiver, if you want to call him, in a wide receiver room that's kind of taking on this new nobody's a wide receiver one role. Khalil Shakir has an ankle injury, will be out this week. More injuries to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive tackle Austin Johnson, oblique injury, will be out, as well as Taylor Rapp with a concussion, has not cleared the concussion protocol and will be out this week against the Texans. So 4 players that are starters or play significant roles with the Buffalo Bills are going to be out. We also saw some other injuries throughout the week with Deion Dawkins having a hamstring injury. He said that he should be fine to go this week, according to Sean McDermott. With Taylor Rapp being out, the expectation is that Cole Bishop will make his first start of his career across from DeMar Hamlin. So big news on the defensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills. And we'll see what happens this week, but I think we're going to be fine. Would you agree?
Only time will tell.
So, Sean, let's get into this matchup. I know we're kind of talking about the injury report, but let's talk about the matchup. I want to start with the opposite side of the ball for the Houston Texans. I know you talked about some of the playmakers that they have in Nico Collins, Tank Dell, who's been injured a little bit, and then our new arch rival in Stephon Diggs. But there's a couple of other weapons on that side of the ball, Dalton Schultz as well. And now with the news that Joe Mixon will be out this week, it kind of helps the Bills to be able to focus on one area in particular rather than having to worry about the run game like we did last week with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in place, and then worry about the passing game as well. So now you can shut down one area and focus on giving up maybe a few more extra yardage when you're giving up runs in this situation. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as soon as I knew Mixon was out, I was like, hey, last week Pierce was out too, but Cam
Right.
Akers has been a horrible running back. He's got terrible vision. He doesn't get anything going. So I was like, man, if he's going to be the workload, then I sell out the pass the entire time. And, they might get a couple runs here and there, but all my focus would be on the pass because, even Dameon Pierce, he's a good running back, but I love Singletary, but I think Pierce was a first round pick, and Devin Singletary jumped him in the depth chart last year, and they didn't even keep Singletary. So that just goes to show how they kind of felt about Pierce. So he's got talent, but he's no Derrick Henry. And that's the other thing. People like around the NFL world are like, man, well, if that's what the Ravens did to you, you guys are just a weak team. You guys just aren't physical. You guys just can't stop the run. Well, I've been saying we struggle stopping the run, but that's mainly in part of the kind of defense we run. It's a very acceptable defense for the run, but they don't have the same horses. They don't have the bodies. The Ravens they're not the best O-line by any means, but the heaviest. They had, on average, the heaviest weight of the O-line. Plus, they used two tight ends. Plus, they had Pat Ricard was 300 pounds himself, plus a 250-pound running back. While you're trying to worry about a quarterback who's probably the most dynamic runner in the league, counting all players. So it was just a lot to deal with. And once we went down, it was just a rough day. So I'm not expecting anything like that to happen again, unless Jonathan Taylor is healthy when we play them, and it could be the same kind of thing.
Right.
But other than that, we're not playing personnel like the Ravens had the rest of the year as far as the kind of run game they're going to have. So I'm not worried. Not saying that they can't run the ball still, but I feel much better with this matchup with our defense, especially if guys like Bernard and Tron Johnson are playing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I want to turn everything over to the Houston Texans side of things. And you talk about injury reports. The Buffalo Bills, yes, they do have a long injury report. The Houston Texans injury report is even longer than the Bills. Let's talk about this injury report for them. Starting off with the players that will be out for the Houston Texans. Defensive end Derek Barnett has a shoulder injury. He will be out. Joe Mixon, the running back, ankle injury, also out. You'll know this player by far. Jerry Hughes, defensive end, has a hip injury. So he'll be out.
It's crazy, Brian. He's been there for a few years now, and I just totally forgot he even existed until Dawkins had an interview, and he's like, "Oh, Jerry Hughes is over there." I'm like, "Damn, he still plays? Okay, but guess he's out, so we won't see him."
As well as the last player that'll be out, defensive tackle Kurt Hinish has a calf injury. He'll be out as well. He was a full participant in each of the 3 practices that they had on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but he will be out, which is a little bit of a surprise to see. A lot of players questionable for the Texans as well. Dameon Pierce, running back, hamstring injury, questionable. As well as linebacker Jake Hansen with a back injury, questionable. He did not practice the last 2 days. Other players that are questionable, defensive end Dylan Horton has a illness, questionable for the game. And then 3 other players, this one you'll know by far, drafted by the Buffalo Bills, wide receiver Robert Woods, who's still in the league, Sean. Foot injury, limited in practice on Friday, questionable. Tackle Titus Howard, hamstring injury, did not practice on Friday, questionable. And then linebacker Aziz Al Shire, I'm going to say it probably wrong, but forgive me, guys.
Sounded pretty good.
Has an illness as well, so there's a little bit of an illness bug that's going around the Houston Texans, questionable for the game. So
that was on Friday?
That was on Friday, yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably be okay. But he's pretty good. Their tackle Tyus Howard, he's been having a rough go from what Mike's friend Cody said, and he's got a hamstring issue. So, you kind of put him in a tough spot. He might have to come out just because, like I told you guys, I played through pulled hamstrings, not torn. You can't do any if your hamstring's torn, you're screwed. But I pulled one of them in baseball, and I played through it. It was hard to move and hard to run. But then, I struggled to play, and it was just baseball. That's not 300-pound men running as fast as they can at me when I try to throw my legs down and anchor down and try to hold someone down. So it's not an easy thing to play through. It's not fun. So that's why I was worried about Dawkins too, because if it was really a bad hamstring injury, I don't know why they put him back out there on top, which is weird that Shakir went out back into the game with an ankle injury.
Right.
And now his injury so bad that he can't play this week. So they probably shouldn't have put him back out in the first place, but they did. But yeah, I feel, getting back to their offense, obviously they have 4 really insane weapons that they can destroy you with, as far as a tight end and 3 receivers go. But they still have a great left tackle, Laramie Tunsil. However, as Cody mentioned too, I think he's got 12 penalties this year, and he gave up a sack. He hasn't really been horrible as far as blocking goes, but if he's committing 12 penalties in 4 games, that's not good at all. Like that's horrible. And that's, as we know, penalties are drive killers. How many times are we driving down the field? Spencer Brown gets a false start. Now you're at 1st and 15. Then you get a holding, and then you're back out of field goal range, and then you're screwed. So if you can force them into holding penalties or false starts, awesome. And then if you can work Howard on the right side, and then you got their interior is kind of weak. Shaq Mason just looks like a blob. He's just not what they thought he was going to be. And I think Kenyon Green is struggling. And I think Drew Scruggs, their center, who we talked about, I think a couple years ago in the draft, us 4, I don't think he's playing yet either. I think he's on injured reserve most likely, because I don't think I've seen him out there. He might be playing now, but I haven't seen him. You might have to correct me on that. But I think we could, again, I thought last week we could take advantage of the Ravens because their O-line's been horrible and they were shifting around that week. But I guess I can't really say for sure now because all my worries, preseason, you guys got on me about wanting more from Groot, and then he had that one good game, and then he's disappeared since then. That was my main worry, is like, can this line consistently beat teams? And they haven't. And now you're out Von Miller, so now one of these guys has to step up, and this is a good line to do it against, but I was disappointed last week.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of the lines that, I look at the defensive line for the Bills, and I'm kind of surprised that, yes, the past couple of weeks we have done a good job, but against the Baltimore Ravens, I felt like we used our aggressiveness so much, and the Baltimore Ravens did such a good job of turning our aggressiveness into mistakes. And we need to do a better job of gap integrity, staying where we're supposed to be, being within our blocks, and making plays. And we missed a lot of plays from the defensive line. Missed tackles left and right. Yeah. It wasn't just the defensive line, the whole entire defense that was the case. But I want to see a better job from this defense. And I think having Terrell Bernard back is going to be a big key for that.
Yeah, I think part of it too, Brett, I have to double check again because I mainly focus on the offense. And a funny story about that, I did the film. You guys know Mike edits all my film. But I pressed delete recording to make space, and I thought, because it shows the recording still there. So I'm like, okay, you can just re-download it. Apparently you can't. So there'll be no week 4 film study for me this week because tomorrow's a game, so I might as well just wait till week 5.
Oh, no.
Funny story. But from what I can imagine, I think that they were so worried about Lamar on the option that the linebackers and the secondary were too afraid to bite in. They were cheating a little bit, trying to maybe like, let's worry about Lamar. And then when he would hand it off, then you're already screwed and you take bad angles at Henry. Because from what I saw from the game, I don't think the defensive tackles did a bad job. Because again, their main job, and every week is a different assignment. Same thing with edge rushers too. You just think, sack the quarterback. But Epinesa and Rousseau, their main job was to really hold contain well so you can flush the guys inside so the other guys can make the tackles. And that's the same thing with the defensive tackle. You have to take the double team, keep your eyes in the backfield, push the pocket so the linebackers and the back 7 can make the plays. But when they're not, it looks like everybody's doing a horrible job. So I want to say it. I think they were just, the back 7 was worried, if we get sucked in, then Lamar's going to take it on the outside and go for like an 80-yard touchdown. So they were worried about too many things, and they just didn't have responses for it. Now, luckily, in our being smoked like that, if we ever play the Ravens again, I think they better have a response for that. But CJ Stroud's not going to be doing that. He might take off when he feels like it, but they're not going to do no read option with a 300-pound fullback. So I think we'll match up well. I think the defensive line will have a bounce back week. Again, no Oliver sucks, but this gives an opportunity for a guy like Carter. We drafted you in the 3rd round. You're probably going to be starting. So let's see if you can earn your opportunity where, obviously Oliver's going to come back and start, but if he does a great job, then you'll get more playing time.
Yeah, you're right. And you look at the defensive tackle room for the Buffalo Bills right now. We mentioned that Austin Johnson and Ed Oliver will both be out this week. You have Daquan Jones, Dwayne Carter, and then you add in Branson Dean to the mix. And I still thought that the defensive tackle room, we should have brought up 2 guys from the practice squad there. I felt like Eli Anku would have been a great choice as well to bring up. Bills decided not to do that. Not sure why that is. Maybe it's because they know that they don't necessarily need to stop the run this week. And that's probably one of the reasons why they didn't. And they can also move Smoot inside a little bit. Maybe even Casey Toohill will play inside as well. So that's the interesting thing.
Yeah, and Solomon, they got Solomon. He could play some edge. He didn't play. I don't think he played at all last week. If he did, didn't remember seeing him. But yeah, I know it's early, but we gotta revamp a little bit on this defensive front, especially if you're gonna rotate. I think, especially D tackle. I think Jones, you got to go. I don't like Austin Johnson. The only D tackles I want back next year are Oliver and Carter, and then I really want to get a true nose tackle who's 340, 350. Just an absolute beast, because that'll help everybody, because you can't leave him. It's like, so imagine Vita Vea and Oliver next to each other. You can't double team both of them. And if you do, then one of your defensive ends basically unblocked. So if you get a guy like him, even when you're running nickel, you have a better chance of stopping the run, and then maybe get another backup, or maybe you can keep Johnson because he's kind of a bigger 3 tech who could play 1 tech, I guess. But I really want a true nose tackle, and again, Oliver's great, and then hopefully Solomon can ramp up and be a valuable piece next year. But he still has time this year to make a name for himself. But I was disappointed last week for sure.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that the defense, especially the defensive tackles, I think this is the week where they're going to show up. But Sean, let's turn it over to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Bills on offense and what we're going to be going up against. Give me some players on the defensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans that you think that the Bills can exploit this week from an offensive perspective.
Well, they do got some dogs over there. You got Will Anderson, defensive end. You got Danielle Hunter, who was 16 sacks last year. Interior's a little bit weak, so we should be able to run well. Again, Josh should have a great pocket because, again, weak interior defensive line. So, yeah, their defensive ends are great. I want to say linebackers isn't so good, but Alziz Shair, he's a pretty good linebacker. All around, just great. And then they got a pretty good corner, and then Jalen Petrie, he's pretty good. I think there's one more guy in their secondary that's decent, but it's like a mixed bag in the secondary. Yeah, so again, middle of the field, like always, that's our bread and butter, middle of the field, and then the interior. We should be able to really dominate on the offensive line, and looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup, though. But there's a lot of players, and I apologize that you're hearing that noise in the background, guys. If you are, had to get a sip of water real quick because it's always fun talking to you guys, but sometimes your mouth gets dry when you're talking so much. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Bills decide to do, if they're going to try and play the run and try and beat the Houston Texans by running the ball a lot, or are they going to come out and start passing the ball more. I think they're going to start passing it just because they want to prove that they can get it done without Diggs.
Yeah. Well, we should always be passing too, bro. I mean, I was kind of joking a little bit, but I sent it in the chat. Kirk Cousins has 58 pass attempts on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Josh only has 101 in 4 games. So
Yeah.
in one game, Cousins had over half of Josh's pass attempts, and Josh Allen's a top 3 quarterback. So why are we not letting him throw the football? I don't want to. That should be our number. That's our number one weapon. Besides their offensive line, he's the strength of he's the best part of our team, especially on the offense. Mm-hmm. I get James Cook is great too, but Josh is a true weapon. So if you're only throwing the ball 20 times a game, I just don't get it. I mean, Kirk Cousins, the Falcons have Bijan Robinson, who's way better than James Cook, and they still threw the ball 60 times.
Right.
I don't know. I don't get it. I think we should, again, 60-40, 65-35. But when you run, you got to run efficiently. And we did that, for the most part. But because we were down by so much, we had to stop running against the Ravens. But I think you just have to be – I get the balance. But I think true balance with our team is 60 to 65% pass because you got a top 3 quarterback. And when you're just handing the ball off, it just takes away – a strength of your football team. I'm not saying throw the ball 50 times a game by any means, but this might be a game you have. This might be a game you have to, because the Texans are only averaging 19 points a game, but they still got the fire. And I always say this, just like the Ravens. Oh, they lost to the Raiders. They've been struggling on the offensive line. Their defense has been giving up a lot in the passing yards, and all of a sudden they had their best game of the year against us. Texans only scored 19 points a game. Watch them score 30 something on us. We got to score 40 to win. So yeah, everyone seems to play their best game versus us. So this might be a game where you can't run the ball 40 times. You have to pass the ball. But I don't know. That's how I feel. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You got to use him.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We need to start utilizing Josh Allen with his arm. And we need to showcase what we really have from the wide receiver room. That's one thing we haven't done so far. Kind of haven't utilized Curtis Samuel. Only 8 catches so far this season in 4 games. Need to showcase him a little bit more, as well as Keon Coleman. So I think that this is going to be a game where you're going to see these guys come out and make big plays, especially when you have Matt Collins and Marquez Valdes-Scantling behind them. So interesting to see what's going to happen there, but I think we'll get the ball rolling with our wide receivers, get it down the field, and then make the Texans pay by when they leave the middle of the field open with the tight ends as well. So, Sean, let's talk about the keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills, how they can come up with a victory, and key matchups as well. Let's start with the key matchups first of all. Who do you have as a key matchup on offense for the Bills?
For our offense versus their defense?
Yes, sir.
It's got to be Curtis Samuel on whoever, because all people talked about, I mean, I didn't buy into the hype, but, Samuel had his best year with Brady. Yeah, 1,000 total yards, and he was this great player. He's going to come here and be great now. And I was like, well, hold the phone. It's a brand new team, different players that the Carolina Panthers had. Maybe he won't be used like that. And up until now, he's been an afterthought and really hasn't even been remotely in the game plan. You said he had 8 catches in 4 games. I think he had 4 of them last week. Yeah, he played in garbage time and got 3 or 4. So all he's been doing is getting 1 screen pass a game, really, and that's it. So you're going to have to step up. We gave him a pretty decent contract. I mean, it wasn't ungodly money, but we gave you a 3-year, $30 million deal. You got to go out there and produce now. You're fast. You can catch the ball. Let's do something. And again, I know we want to spread the ball around, but when Shakir goes down, you got to step up and you got to do something for this offense. And then, is really anybody on the offense, but I think Curtis Samuel specifically, just because he's been missing, like Mike says here, he's been missing, but he was so hyped up by everybody. So,
yeah, you're exactly right. And what Mike says here, Samuel has been missing. He has the speed, not utilizing it. That's the one thing I want to see them do, is try and take a deep shot to Curtis Samuel down the field, just to make the defense worry about him. I mean, that's the biggest thing. For me, I'm more looking at Keon Coleman. I think it's a game where he needs to shine. You have a player that was drafted in the early second round. It's time for him to showcase what he has out there on the field. And last week he didn't play much, but it's time for him to get a connection with Josh Allen and make some big plays and start to get into the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year as well. So I want to see what he does out there on the field. He'll be going up against probably Derek Stingley, I imagine, out there. So he'll be playing that X role for the Bills, in my opinion. But Sean, let's turn it over to the defensive side for Buffalo. Who's your matchup that you want to talk about here?
Well, I'm a trench guy, so whoever's on Laramie Tunsil, I mean, he's the best offensive lineman on our team, but because he's so heavily penalized, I think you can use that to your advantage. I think maybe he's been getting beat up, maybe he's took a step back, and he does have. Yeah. I think he does have an ankle injury. I think he's been playing through some pain, so maybe I don't know what all the penalties are, but if they're holdings, he's probably getting beat and he just holds them so he doesn't get his quarterback killed. And, maybe he's just thinking about the injury too much. So if you put a guy like Greg Rousseau on him, who's big and strong, and you make him work for it, we could take advantage of that. And then again, it sucks not having Oliver today or tomorrow because they have such a weak interior offensive line. So hopefully Carter can step up. But if we can take advantage of these tackles and get that push up front and make CJ Stroud have to run around a bunch and not be able to look straight at Nico Collins and throw a dart to him down 30 yards downfield every single drive, that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. For me, I'm going to say Christian Benford or Nico Collins. I think that's going to be the biggest matchup of the game. I think that's going to be one that I want to watch every single play. It's going to be a battle. Christian Benford is not going to win every single one, but he is one of the better zone cornerbacks in the NFL. So I want to see what he does out there on the field. But Sean, let's talk about the keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills, and we'll go back and forth. Give me a key to the game that you have for the Bills.
Yeah, take advantage. Like I mentioned it already a couple times. Just take advantage of that weak interior offensive line. Again, Ravens had a they moved the right tackle to left guard. They missed their left guard. Their right guard's been struggling, and we couldn't take advantage of it. This time, you really got to take advantage of it. And again, they don't have Derrick Henry, so we should be able to stop the run. And you got to get pressure on CJ Stroud. So take advantage of this interior offensive line, and things. If you dominate the trenches, things will usually work out for you.
Yeah, for me, it's take advantage of opportunities and take shots deep down the field. You need to open up this playbook for the Buffalo Bills. You need to take shots and try and put points on the board. We haven't really been able to, the past week, put a lot of points on the board. I want to see the Bills come out and showcase this heavy offensive formation that they can do and get the ball to their playmaking receivers. You got guys that are 6'4" out there on the field. Get the ball to them deep down the field. Make them make plays and go up for high contested catches and put pressure on this defense of the Texans. Make them play the full length of the field.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this going back to that Ravens game, again, I did the film, and again, the video won't be out, but as far as the offensive line, it wasn't nearly as bad as what people were making it seem. There was a couple of plays I wanted to talk about that I'm not going to get to because, again, it's not on video anymore. But the main problem was the receivers weren't getting open, and you could tell because they were open for like a split second, but Allen didn't want to take the chance of throwing it
right
because that window shut within a millisecond. So it was more like playing college football where they weren't NFL open. They were just open for a split second. By the time Allen made it, read to read, it was already closed. And then he's like, oh shit, now I got to throw the ball away or run it. And it looked like he was running for his life. Again, I like to make this a point. Whenever he runs out of the pocket, there might not be pressure. It might be because the receivers aren't open and he has to do a scramble drill to get people open. So
yeah,
really the receivers got to get open. And Shakir was our most efficient separator, and he's not playing. So
Yeah, that's why I think we got Shavers out there to try and get open. That's going to be the biggest thing, but we'll see what happens out there. Sean, give me another key to the game, though.
Yeah, I say this every week, but you got to be effective on first down, and that's you can say that about any team, but especially our team because we're uh, again really good in the short down situations. So if you can get into third and two, third and three, third and one, you're almost guaranteed to get that every time. So not every time, but better chances than not of getting that with us. But if you start out and you run the ball and it's 2nd and 12, then you're an obvious passing down, then they're ready for it. It just makes it harder for a team that doesn't have that dominant guy on the receiving room to make a big play. So again, be really whether you run or pass, be efficient on the first down. If you're running, get at least three or four. If you're passing, get 3 or 4 or 5. And then you're 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, then that's pretty good. So stick with being efficient on first down.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'll kind of second what you're saying there. You said capitalize on third downs. I think it comes down to the missed tackles. I mean, that's one of the things that the Bills struggled with last week was a lot of missed tackles on Derrick Henry. This is the week I want to see them clean those up and get off the field. Like you mentioned, get off the field on third down. Let's get off the field by making sure tackles. And I think adding into the mix your best tackler in Taron Johnson, as well as having Terrell Bernard back out there on the field is going to be a big difference for the Bills.
Absolutely. And what have I been saying for the last couple of years that I've known you? The big problems with our team on defense, can't stop the
Injury.
run, can't tackle, and third and longs. And that all
Yeah.
happened on a extensive clip last week. And again, that's part of why I never say it's just one game because no, this is 8 years now of the same crap that hasn't been fixed. The poor tackling, the not stopping the run. Because again, sometimes we tackle great, sometimes we stop the run great, sometimes we never give up third and longs. But more times than not, whenever something's going wrong, it's always that. So again, please don't give up third and longs against this team, especially where they have a ton of playmakers. So definitely be worried every third down. But yeah, if you stop them on third down, especially third and long, then again, that's another thing that will swing very positively in your favor.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And then, I mean, I mentioned on offense, I think it comes down to just staying within yourself and not having boneheaded penalties. That goes for the whole entire team. The penalties have racked up over the last couple of weeks. Let's play a clean game. Try and not give them any free plays because this is going to be a game where you're going to have a lot of emotion in there. You're going to see it left and right. They're going to try and draw you a little bit. Just stay within yourself. Don't let the moment get too big for you. That's the biggest thing I have to say.
Yeah, this is a very important game. You don't want to lose 2 in a row, especially, but then to 2 playoff teams that you're trying to compete with to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then if you lose to those 2 games, I'm assuming the Jets are going to lose to the Vikings. So if you beat them, it's not really a big deal. You beat a losing team. So
Yeah,
this is big for the confidence and the pride in the locker room. You got waxed by a good team that I felt were on similar level to. So if you go out there and you beat a great team on the road, you're back, mentally in that spot where you're like, yeah, it was just a little dud. It happens to everyone. But if you go lose 2 in a row and you play like crap again, then maybe, is this a theme now that we can't play well against good teams? So they should take last week very personal. Not even about Diggs playing on the other side. You should just take it personal anyway because this team is another good team that people are comparing you to, and you have to beat them. And then again, of course, all the Texans are making it out to seem that Diggs was wronged and Diggs is the victim and all this. Even C.J. Stroud, a Christian, God-loving man, goes on the podium and says, "I don't get the narratives people created about him. He's always been this and always been that." But then he wanted to leave. At the end of the day, I love everything he did. I think he's one of the greatest, obviously one of the greatest receivers in Bills history. It's not too hard to do that, but but definitely did a lot of great things for us. And I still got his jersey. I love him as a player, but he wanted out. We respected him enough to give him the opportunity because, again, we didn't have to trade him. We could have said, no, you're staying with us, and if you don't want to play, you're on the bench. You're just not, you're not going to get your money. Sorry. But they respected him. They wanted no tension in the locker room. They let him go. And to all the stuff he did and said to just be overblown and to it being, oh, it's all Josh and the Bills are wrong, Stephon Diggs. I'm not about that. That's ridiculous. But
yeah,
again, he's a fierce competitor. We all know that. All the guys know that. And we know that their team has painted it to seem like we're the wrong ones and they want to win for Diggs and they want to show us and punch us in the mouth and all that. So don't let them. You got to get ahead and you got to stay ahead. And if they do get ahead for a little bit, you got to score immediately and keep applying pressure because they're the home team. So if we saw what happened last week, if you go down quick and then you can't answer, it can get out of hand very fast. And they could do the same thing only in the passing game. They're not going to run the ball like the Ravens will, but they sure as hell can pass a lot better than they can. So
yeah,
if you're gonna get the ball first, get a touchdown, and then try to hold them on defense, and then get a field goal, and then you don't have to score a touchdown every single drive, but it's really important to always apply pressure and not just be down the whole time.
Absolutely, Sean. You're exactly right on that. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Do you have any score predictions for the game?
It's going to be a 4-point game.
4-point game? I say the Bills are going to win by more than 10. And I mean that when I say it. I think this is a game where, the Bills understand that they let down last week and they're going to show up this week and they're going to get it done. But Sean, any closing thoughts that you have for the game?
Well, I just hope both teams play well, come out healthy, and again, I hope we get the win because we really need that. Going 4-1 into the Jet game when they could be 2-3 or 3-2 is huge because then that game is very, very important, and that ends the rough, long road stretch of 3 games, and then you go play the Titans, the team that again isn't that great but can beat anybody. So you don't want to look ahead or sleep on them, but you want to make sure you take care of business this week versus the Texans. Go 1-0, and then next game is even more important than the one we just had.
Yeah, AOL Instant Messenger. Yes, he is injured. Shakir is injured. He has an ankle injury. He will be out this week. So the Bills did bring up Tyrell Shavers to the active roster for the game, so we'll see what happens there. But Sean, for me, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I can't wait for this one. NRG Stadium is a great stadium to play in my opinion. I remember a lot back in the day when Andre Johnson was rocking down there, and Cortland Finnegan. I don't know if you remember him back in the day. The Andre Johnson, Cortland Finnegan moment. That's the biggest moment I can think of from NRG Stadium. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. AOL Instant Messenger coming in saying, and I think this is Battlehawk Superfan is who it actually is. Thumbs up to you two gentlemen. Appreciate you for tuning in. Don't forget, guys, you can like and subscribe, comment on the video. We appreciate each and every one of you. Even if you're watching it back after we are going live, we will definitely be making sure that we comment back to you guys. And if you're new to the channel and you're looking to get in contact with other Bills fans or fans of other teams, maybe you're a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, or other teams, we do have our Discord channel as well. You can click the link in the description below and you can join our Discord channel. We have a bunch of people that are in there that love to talk about football as well. So let us know that too. We also have our AFC East Summit show on Tuesdays, and we will be talking about the entire AFC East this Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got a little bit of a troll coming into the chat in AOL Instant Messenger saying, can we cut Van Pran already? As well as freaking sucks asking how we made out with the hurricane. Yes, we are doing great after the hurricane. A week after, my wife and I did fine, but the city that I live in, which is about an hour south of Tampa, we had a lot of issues down here. I've been cleaning up the island. Unfortunately, here's where it sucks. We have another hurricane that is actually going to be coming from west to east and is going to hit us, and it's supposed to be a direct hit on Sarasota, which is where I'm at. So my thoughts and prayers.
Go inland this time.
I'm sorry?
Make sure you go inland this time and don't hang around waiting for it to hit you.
Yeah, that's true. AOL Instant Messenger saying Sarasota gang, you're exactly right. The Sarasota area is where I'm at. Sarasota Bradenton area is where I'm at. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Orlando not going to work this time. I'm not going there, but we'll see what happens with this storm. And listen, I've said it before, my thoughts and prayers are with everybody during the storm. If you are looking for somebody and you're in the area of Florida, you're looking for somebody that can help you throughout the storm, I'm the guy. DM me on Instagram at Go Bills Podcast if you're looking for people. I know people that can get you in the right direction as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. And also don't forget, we will be live again for another episode of Red, White, and Ruthless on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Sean, I'm Brett. And as always, we say when we end our show, Go Bills.
Go Bills.